Salam Diaspora. Terima kasih.
But when I went on a presidential trip one day, I sat next to Jairo Tanjung, and I asked him, hey, you're building all these things, you're buying everything, I mean, what do you really want to do? Where are you going with this? Where will you go one day? And he responded to me. I don't know if he was joking or not. He was half asleep. He said, I just want to buy Disney or Universal one day. I don't know if you were serious or not, but to be honest, Indonesians are really shooting high. Like Sehat, like Pak Lohia, and Harul. I'm pleased also to say, I don't know if you know this, Sixers, the Philadelphia Sixers, the basketball team, is owned by an Indonesian now. Did you notice? Where's Eric? Eric Thohir, where are you? There, can you get up? And Anin. Is he here somewhere?
Anin ada.
Not yet, not
Yeah.
yet.
And Anin, are you part of that deal also? Okay. And I think he's buying another major American sports organization. So that is the spirit that Pak Khairul represents of the young Indonesia, confident, smart, global-oriented, and they believe they can do everything. So I'm very pleased to give the floor to Pak Khairul Tanjung.
Terima kasih, Pak Dino. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Salam diaspora. Kalau kita lihat hari ini ada dua perbedaan menyolok. Ya. Ada dua tamu diaspora using English and speaking in the chair. Dan ada dua orang dari Indonesia speakingnya berdiri dan memakai bahasa Indonesia. Ya. Jadi ada two difference terlihat di sini antara the real diaspora dan produk ayam kampung. Ini perbedaan antara Kentucky Fried Chicken sama ayam Suharti. Ya.
Ayam kering.
Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, teman-teman yang berbahagia, senang sekali saya bisa berada di antara Bapak Ibu sekalian, dan saya ingin mengucapkan selamat juga kepada Pak Dino khususnya dan Bapak Ibu sekalian yang hadir dari banyak negara, khususnya orang yang mempunyai roots atau hubungan baik darah, baik interest ya tentang Indonesia. Tadi Pak Nuh sudah bicara tentang nasionalisme, luar biasa menurut saya. Ya. Nah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, diaspora ini penting. Penting bukan cuma untuk Bapak Ibu sekalian, tapi juga penting buat Indonesia. Kenapa saya katakan demikian? Kemarin Pak Dino sudah mengatakan ada 7 sampai 8 juta, possible ada lebih dari 10 million people diaspora di seluruh dunia. Ya. Dan ada remittance, ada uang yang dikirim dari luar ke Indonesia. Menurut catatan World Bank, ada kira-kira 7,1 billion US dollar setiap tahun. Nah, cuma sayangnya dari 7 sampai 8 juta itu 6 juta masih merupakan tenaga kerja yang relatif berpenghasilan rendah. Ya. Jadi sayangnya seperti itu. Nah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, saya ingin memberi contoh ada 2 negara yang luar biasa peran diasporanya untuk negaranya. Yang pertama adalah Filipina. Filipina itu diasporanya begitu luar biasa, bisa membangun ekonomi negaranya itu dari diasporanya. Begitu juga India. India kita tahu generasi IT yang luar biasa, outsourcing yang luar biasa di India, itu bermula dari diaspora India. Yang balik ke India mengembangkan teknologi IT, outsourcing dan sebagainya, membuat ekonomi India bangkit. Dan diaspora untuk Indonesia penting, dan Bapak Presiden dalam sambutannya menyatakan begitu pentingnya. Saya ingin buka satu rahasia sedikit, ya. Malam itu saya bertugas harus mengambil gambar Presiden, ya. Tepatnya hari Minggu malam, karena besok paginya Presiden harus berangkat ke Darwin. Saya harusnya menemani beliau ke Darwin, tapi saya mendapat tugas khusus, ya, untuk membawa pidato beliau ke Kongres Diaspora ini. Nah, sebelum beliau berpidato, beliau mengadakan rapat. Ya, ada beberapa menteri yang hadir, ya. Dan di rapat itu beliau mengatakan bahwa diaspora ini penting untuk Indonesia. Jujur saya harus katakan bahwa tadinya naskah pidato yang disiapkan tidak menyebut-nyebut hal komitmen pemerintah untuk mendukung diaspora. Ya. Tapi beliau mengatakan setelah rapat, saya mau dimasukkan satu, ada affirmative action untuk pemberian visa khusus untuk diaspora. Ya. Kalau belum bisa 10 tahun, 5 tahun dulu. Nanti meningkat 10 tahun, bahkan kalau perlu nanti bisa dilanjutkan untuk seumur hidup. Ya. Yang kedua, beliau mengatakan bahwa harus ada special desk, special body di dalam Departemen Luar Negeri yang mengurus urusan diaspora. Nah, jadi concern beliau luar biasa. Nah, yang ketiga yang penting yang saya akan bahas, karena beliau menyampaikan pesan khusus ke saya, Pak Hairul, make sure seluruh orang Indonesia di luar negeri sadar betul apa yang sedang terjadi di Indonesia. Ya. Indonesia, Bapak Ibu sekalian, saat ini sedang masuk dalam the golden era of Indonesia. Tadi Pak Nuh sudah katakan kita punya bonus demografi, tapi tidak cuma itu. Kita ini sekarang pertumbuhan GDP nominal, ya, kita Bapak Ibu sekalian itu tertinggi di dunia, ya. Mengalahkan Rusia, Cina, bahkan IMF memproyeksikan 5 tahun ke depan, ya, kita akan jadi pertumbuhannya itu tetap nomor 1 di dunia secara nominal, ya. Luar biasa. Bapak Ibu, kita sekarang ini menguasai, we control now more than 40% economic in Southeast Asia. Ya, ada 10 negara ASEAN, Southeast Asia, kita itu controlling more than 40%. Dan di dalam proyeksinya, kita akan mengontrol more than 50% soon daripada ekonomi di Southeast Asia. Jadi negara Bapak Ibu bukan negara ecek-ecek lagi. Ya. Negara dengan potensi yang luar biasa. Ya. Memang masih banyak masalah-masalah di Republik kita. Saya tidak bicara bahwa negara kita semuanya serba smooth. Tetapi dari segi potensi luar biasa. Jadi Bapak Ibu, kalau ada American Dreams, saya tadi bicara sama Pak Sehat, sekarang juga ada Indonesian Dreams. Ya. Saya bukan berasal dari mana-mana, saya berasal dari keluarga yang kurang mampu, bersekolah dengan biaya sendiri, cari uang dengan segala macam cara. Alhamdulillah, ya, sekarang bisa datang ke Amerika dan bisa berdiri di atas Bapak Ibu, di depan Bapak Ibu sekalian.
Berdiri di atas.
Ya. Nah, yang saya mau sampaikan bahwa, ya, kita sekarang saatnya, ya. Sekarang kan selama ini ada brain drain, ada keluar knowledge, experience, skill, ya, keluar. Sekarang is a time. Kita mesti reverse the brain drain. Kita mesti tarik balik, ya, ilmu-ilmu pengetahuan yang ada, skill yang kita punya yang ada di luar. Ayo masuk lagi ke dalam, ya, kita bangun negara kita. Dan saya percaya, ya, sizing kita sudah memungkinkan untuk itu. Ya, sudah memungkinkan. Bapak Ibu, saya ambil satu contoh saja. Ini kebetulan ada direkturnya, dirutnya Bank Mandiri. Ya, keuntungan perbankan kita, ya, sekelas yang besar-besar seperti Mandiri, BRI dan lain sebagainya, itu sudah standar sekelas keuntungan daripada perbankan kelas dunia. Keuntungan mereka sudah almost $2 billion per year. Ya. Jadi sizing daripada company kita is not small sizing. Jadi kalau tadi ada mimpinya Pak Dino, ya, bahwa someday kita bisa mengakuisisi perusahaan besar di Amerika, itu bukan mimpi kosong. Just a matter of time. Ya. Kita bisa tumbuh rata-rata kira-kira sizing ekonomi kita double setiap 4 tahun. Ya, jadi kalau 8 tahun lagi kita punya sizing of economy sudah 4 kali. 12 tahun itu sudah 8 kali. Dan kalau sekarang kita $1 trillion economy, ya, 12 years from now we have a sizing already sudah $8 trillion of economy. Sudah separuh Amerika. Kalau sekarang Amerika kira-kira 16 triliun US dollars. Ya. Jadi kita bukan bangsa ecek-ecek lagi Bapak Ibu sekalian. Jadi sekarang kita mesti bangga jadi orang Indonesia. Walaupun mungkin di antara bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu sudah bukan warga negara Indonesia. Tetapi seperti Presiden katakan, kita akan dengan sangat terbuka, ya, untuk menerima semua diaspora Indonesia. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Khairul. Ini bedanya Pak Khairul dengan Pak Lohia. Kalau Pak Lohia billions of dollars, Pak Khairul gazillions of dollars. But one thing I'm happy to say, Pak Khairul bilang bagaimana diaspora bisa menyumbang pada Indonesia, berpartner. Pak Sehat in the last year or so sudah melakukan kerjasama dengan ITB, I think, right? Dan is planning more partnerships dengan inovator-inovator Indonesia. So thank you very much, Pak Sehat. Our next speaker baru turun dari pesawat dan saya mau congratulate Ibu Mari sebagai satu-satunya anggota kabinet Presiden SBY memberikan pidato di forum internasional dengan jeans. So. The floor is yours. Please.
Oke, saya nggak mau kalah sama Pak Khairul, jadi saya berdiri supaya juga nggak tertidur. Good morning, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I just got off the plane, so I decided I better stand up or I'm going to fall asleep. I'd like to, first of all, congratulate Ambassador Dino for this great initiative. It's something I still consider myself as a former diaspora who made it back home. I've always dreamed about this kind of networking between diaspora. I think Pak Khairul mentioned the success of diaspora like India, you could say China, Philippines, where they have succeeded in bringing back people to build the country, as well as in wherever they are, they come also with the networking and so on. India was a good example. They started the IT businesses. China is another good example. They have a term for it. They call them repatriates. So they could be Chinese from anywhere. And I think Pak Sehat's wife is an example of a repatriate who has come back also to help China. And Pak Sehat has come back also to help Indonesia. And I attended something which was very powerful to me a few years ago, where I attended a Taiwanese diaspora networking session. It was in Bali, and they do this every year, like what we're doing here. They do this every year, and there were like 4,000 or 5,000 of them who met in Bali. They choose different countries every year. And they came from all over the world. It was incredible. And they networked, they did business, they did many things. They, reminded themselves about what it is about being Taiwanese. So I think this is a great initiative, and I hope that this is the start of something really great. I just wanted to say 3 messages, because I think we need time for a question and answer. As a former diaspora, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts. The first thought is, as a diaspora, I lived 20 years, from 9 years old to 20 years old, before I came back to Indonesia. We always have this fear: can I adjust back? I don't even speak Indonesian. I don't know very much about Indonesia. Can I adjust back? The answer is yes. You have an advantage as a diaspora. I lived in 3 countries, went through something like 13 educational institutions, so very cross-cultural. You are very flexible, and you can adjust very quickly. And you can be an ayam kampung when you need to be, a local chicken, or you can be a Kentucky Fried Chicken when you need to be. So you can be international, and you can be local. So don't be afraid. It takes time. It took me, I would say, 2 years. Maybe I'm still adjusting. 2 to 3 years to really master the language and get back into the culture. But you can do it. So you have this advantage of flexibility and probably networking, because you have been living overseas. My second message is that you can contribute a lot, even though you are not living in Indonesia. And the big question out there for a lot of diaspora is, how do I keep in touch? How do I keep feeling Indonesian? And I think a few things that I learned. My parents, when we were living, part of that living abroad was with my parents. My parents were always teaching me about Indonesia, and they always made me, I hated it at the time, they always made me go to the embassy. The embassy and the consulate generals always have functions that are a la Indonesian. I even had to take Indonesian classes on Saturday mornings. For a kid, that was really not very appealing. But I'm glad my parents forced me to do that, because it kept me, even though I was sort of straddling between being Western or being wherever I was, and I still had some exposure to Indonesia. And we all, as students, as Indonesian community living abroad, if we participate in the events held by the embassy or welcome visitors from abroad, as many of you volunteers are doing with us today, it's incredible, the amount of things you learn and keep in touch with. I mean, one of my pleasures when I was living in Shanghai was to take Amin Rais around, for instance, or to host dinner for Ibu Megawati as Masyarakat Indonesia, welcoming dignitaries. And that's the kind of thing you should be always doing, because that will keep you in touch with your country. The last thing I would say is that you can contribute to your country anywhere you are. Yes, we would love many of you to come back home and contribute to the great country that Pak Khairul has described so well. Indonesia is a great country. It's going to be one of the greatest emerging countries in the world. So you can come back, but you can also be wherever you are and still contribute. In today's globalization, I believe that you can do so much without physically being there or even physically meeting. You can even do networking and joint production, joint collaboration without actually ever physically meeting. 50%, if you watch Garfield, 50% of Garfield is actually made in Batam, in Indonesia. Most of your BlackBerry, 500 of your BlackBerry applications are being made by young, talented Indonesians, and so on and so forth. So there's a world of opportunity out there. The only thing I would add about Pak Khairul has mentioned the economic dimensions of Indonesia's growth. I think now as a new Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, I've had the chance in the last 6 months to really travel around Indonesia. And it's really made me love my country even more, because we are a great country, we are large, we have so much history, culture, mega biodiversity. Did you know we are the 3rd largest country in the world in terms of mega biodiversity? We have so much to offer, and you should be proud. And my last message is that I hope all of you out there, you are all our ambassadors wherever you are, and I hope that you can promote Indonesia wherever you are, and be proud of Indonesia, so that and I hope that we can utilize and use the networks that we will hopefully create coming out of here to help Indonesia grow together, and that wherever you are, you can still contribute to your country. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Mbak Mary, for your inspiring message. Can I ask everybody's permission for us to extend our session for about another 10-15 minutes for Q&A, because we started late, and I know we got the next group of sessions, breakout sessions, but I think everybody who's in the breakout sessions are here today. Am I correct? Yeah, so because this is a very rare opportunity to have all these brains here, let's extend another 15 minutes, maybe even slightly longer, take a few questions, and then after that we can go to the breakout sessions, and we can have shorter lunch later on. Yeah, agree? If you agree, say agree. Good, all right, good, good. All right, now it's Q&A time. I'll take the first 3 questions. Yeah, okay, I have Pak Heru there, you're from Louisiana, are you? Yeah, there you go.
Pak Dino? I'm standing here.
I just hear a voice. Sorry, I take that gentleman, you're diaspora from Azerbaijan, right? Yes. That man?
Qatar.
And then Qatar, okay, good. So Heru, Azerbaijan, and then Qatar. Heri. We'll get there, we'll get there. Come on. Mike? Pak Heri. Oh, Pak Heri is right here. Pak Heri, I want everybody to ask questions. So just one question and tell us who is directed to.
Sure.
I don't want one A, B, C, D.
Only one question. Thank you, Pak Dino. My question goes to, I think, Pak Sehat. Okay, you are the genius. I think we are all proud of you. And because of your genius, I won't ask you about what you can do. We know all. And what I would like to ask you is, if you could name 3 different things outside you that contribute a lot to your success. It can be anything, it can be social system or anything on protection of IP or whatever. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.
And then we take the other 2 questions first. But by the way, I can answer that. For Pak Waila, the 3 are Waili, Waili, Waili. All right, Azerbaijan, and then get a mic ready for Qatar, please.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Danet Suryatama. I'm the...
oh, you're Danet. Hi, Danet.
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Dino. Pak Dino has been helping us. I'm the builder of the electric vehicles that's not being weighted for the Indonesian government.
Yes.
Actually, this company is not started in Indonesia. It's actually started in the US. It's just only a matter of time that we build it in Indonesia because the Indonesian government wanted. Now we're going to bring the company, the vehicles back to the US instead of selling it just only in Indonesia. Now I have a question to Pak Khairul.
This one.
Begini Pak, I know many of you gentlemen have built a company from a small, like fledgling company like us, to a very big corporations. With our own money, in this case my wife's money, I mean, not my money, my wife's money, to become a very big corporations. In one word or several words, what is the key of that? Do you build it from the scratch, or you buy the companies, or you do good things? Thank you.
Okay, Qatar.
Assalamualaikum.
Are you from Qatar?
Yes, from Qatar.
Okay.
Saya langsung kepada Pak No, Bapak Menteri No. Berbicara soal diaspora, kita akan perlu memikirkan next generation diaspora. Untuk itu, sebagai contoh kami di Qatar tidak seberuntung Ibu Mari Pangestu yang bisa mendapatkan pendidikan Indonesia. Untuk itu kami minta kepada Bapak Menteri Pendidikan untuk menyediakan seorang guru di kedutaan agar anak-anak dididik kebangsaan. Terima kasih.
Okay. Pak Sehat, please.
Oh, okay. I guess it's hard to identify any specific reasons why what caused me to be to be successful. Probably from the very beginnings when I was born in an environment where through my family and also the schools that I went to. Some of the best places. Like even the schools. I will say today, when compared to my kids' school in the U.S., they are pretty comparable in terms of their levels of education systems. So so we all can be proud that Indonesia have some of the best schools in the world for the kids to grow up. So and then as I grew up, it's my hobby, I guess. I started working on things that I love. My parents wanted me to become a medical doctor. I told them, yeah, I'm scared, but with blood. But this thing is very exciting. It's I really enjoy it, even though I knew at the time. There was no hope for me to make a living, to become a radio repair person. But I didn't really care. What I wanted to do is to do something that I could enjoy. This is also the message that you want to send to your kids. Like do things what you really will enjoy for the rest of your life. This is very important, because only when you do things that you love for the rest of your life that you will figure out how to solve problems, even those problems takes 20 years to solve. So those are the things that drove me in the beginning. But as time progresses, other things influence me. My wife, for example. I met my wife, and my wife is she loves me very much. She understands what I want. She understands what I wanted to do. So she could see what I had in my mind, even though it's not too obvious. Will this thing become a reality or not? It's not too obvious, but she believes in me. So, and then, and support me along the way. So, even when I started the company, you talk about your wife. You use all your wife's money. Okay, perfect. So, I pretty much used my wife's parents' money to start the company. So she believed in me so much that she convinced her parents to invest in Marvell. So, so that's what maybe like the belief. You need to believe that you could do something. Only when you believe you could do something and you enjoy to do it, and then and people around you believe in you, that's You at least you have a good start. That's when you get a good starting point. But then you still have to work hard. You don't take things for granted. But how do we get these things? Don't take things for granted. Well, I guess because the culture of Indonesians. A lot of Indonesians, people who live in Indonesia are immigrants, and these are the people they came from other places around the world where this, like my grandparents came from China. If they have stayed in China, they probably have died because of the conditions of how poor was it in the early 1900s in China. So these are the people that went to Indonesia to look for a better place to live. Anything. No matter how tough it is, it's better than the previous life. So they work very, very hard. So, and we see that throughout the time when we were growing up, that people work hard. Even even when I was growing up, I don't know, but you heard this. When people see when Indonesians see people they're successful, they are not jealous of people they're successful. They say someday, my kids could be like that neighbor, my neighbor. So this attitude, this culture that we have, it's quite unique in the world. That's why what causes us, many of us to be, Pak Khairul, for example, Pak Sri, for example, to be successful. And there are a lot more. I mean, there's so many conglomerates in Indonesia, and you wonder why they are all happening in Indonesia. Well, because these are all entrepreneurs. These are people that want to make things happen. So, the other part is, I guess, luck. Okay, I guess I'm blessed, by God that despite all the challenges that I have in the world, for some reasons, I survive. Yeah. Thank you.
Hairul?
Thank you. I think we met in Jogja, right? Yes, we met in Jogja. In that time, you introduced yourself in the front of presidents. Yeah, explains about your product. Yeah. So about your question, yeah, that is I just tell about my story from in the beginning. I'm starting from informal business. Yeah, what is the informal business? You are the boss, you are the employee, because you are the only one. Yeah, that's the informal business. Yeah. So if you asking, for me, it's a better you starting from scratch. Yeah, because you're still young, you had the time, but you doesn't have a lot of money, right? Your capital is a time. So because of that, you can groom your business from scratch. During the process, when you have already a lot of money, normally you have a lot of money, you doesn't have a time. Yeah. So because of that, you do the acquisition. Yeah. So because of that, my answer is very simple. Because you have a time now, you doesn't have a lot of money, you're still using your wife money. Yeah. So because of that, better you're starting from scratch. I hope stepping from the informal business to the small scale business and to medium, and after that to the large business, after you already in that level, you can do starting with the acquisition.
Okay.
Thank you.
By the way, Danan, if your wife doesn't have money, you can use my wife's money, okay? Just give me a call later. Okay. Pak Penuh.
Terima kasih yang dari Qatar tadi. Sebelum menjawab ke situ, ada fenomena menarik untuk kita cermati, fenomena konvergensi peradaban. Jadi gara-gara mobilitas ini tinggi, maka peradaban suatu bangsa itu pun juga akan mengalir, dan kemungkinannya 3. Yang pertama, dominasi peradaban tertentu terhadap peradaban yang lain. Kita tidak inginkan itu. Yang kedua, benturan terhadap antar peradaban, clash of civilizations, si tesisnya Samuel Huntington. Dan yang ketiga, konvergensi peradaban. Jadi kemungkinan besar yang akan terjadi itu adalah konvergensi. Dan itu sama saja dengan fenomena di IT. Yang tadinya telekomunikasi itu untuk voice, data tersendiri, gambar tersendiri, menjadi satu, namanya multimedia. Maka peradaban pun juga akan demikian. Nah, kita, Indonesia harus menyiapkan satu spektrum peradaban Indonesia, sehingga nanti pada saat konvergensi, ada kekhasan, uniqueness dari peradaban Indonesia itu. Disitulah mengapa sekarang ini kita gencar untuk mengembangkan peradaban atau budaya-budaya Indonesia ke luar negeri. Minimal sekarang yang kita ingin kembangkan di beberapa universitas harus ada Indonesian Studies. Karena untuk memperkaya dan memperkuat peradaban Indonesia, supaya tidak terjadi dominasi terhadap peradaban Indonesia. Nah, khusus mengenai guru, insya Allah kalau satu saja, tidak usah diminta, akan dikirim. Ya. Kalau urusan guru ini pun juga penting kami sampaikan. Tema besar kita itu sekarang ini menjangkau bagi yang tidak terjangkau. Diaspora termasuk bagian yang dulunya tidak terjangkau. Oleh karena itu tema ini tetap relevan, termasuk ketidakterjangkauan karena kewilayahan. Saudara-saudara kita yang ada di pojok-pojok, yang ada di pulau terdepan dan seterusnya, itu pun juga kekurangan atau belum terjangkau. Oleh karena itu kita sekarang mengembangkan menjangkau yang tidak terjangkau, baik karena kewilayahan, karena status sosial, atau karena yang lain-lain. Diaspora, tema ini sangat relevan, sebagai bagian dari menjangkau yang tidak terjangkau. Saya kira itu, dan kita tema besarnya adalah membangun peradaban Indonesia, mempersiapkan konvergensi peradaban dunia. Terima kasih.
Oke. Terima kasih. 3 pertanyaan terakhir. Oke.
Banyak nih, guys.
That gentleman. Yes, oke, 1. Woman belum. Woman. There you go. 1, oke.
Oh, ini ada woman di depan ini.
And
Ada woman.
Claire Wolfowitz. Okay, you got 3.
Terima kasih, saya datang dari Surabaya, baru datang kemarin. Flying many thousands kilometers from to here.
You're from GNFI, are you?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you, Pak Dino, for the invitation. Pertanyaan saya sebenarnya tadi based on what is said by Pak Noh, bahwasannya Indonesia tahun 2010 sampai 2035 itu kita mempunyai demographic dividend yang luar biasa. But it can be slipped into a demographic disaster kalau kita tidak mampu memanage-nya. Ada fenomena, mungkin teman-teman yang berada di luar Indonesia kurang inform, tapi di Indonesia ada fenomena yang bagi saya sangat mengkhawatirkan. Anak muda Indonesia saat ini selalu dicekoki atau didoktrin dengan berita-berita yang negatif, berita-berita yang skeptik tentang Indonesia. Terakhir mengenai Indonesia as a failed country, is a failing country, itu menjadi huge isu di sana, dan begitu banyak suara-suara yang tidak tidak percaya bahwa Indonesia akan menjadi negara besar, dan itu mengkhawatirkan. Dan pertanyaan saya terutama untuk Bapak Khairul Tanjung yang kebetulan memiliki media massa, apakah kira-kira memungkinkan Pak Khairul Tanjung bahwa ke depan TV-TV Indonesia, berita-berita Indonesia itu a little bit more balanced than now. Kalau kita buka TV di Indonesia sekarang, isinya adalah korupsi, pembunuhan, perkosaan, tawuran pelajar, tawuran antar kampung, sapi lepas, pohon tumbang, dan sebagainya. Seriously. Saya pernah ke Solomon Island, negara yang di tengah Pasifik yang out of nowhere, itu mereka bilang mereka lebih memilih flying vacation to Malaysia. Saya tanya kenapa? Indonesia has too much fighting. Too much fighting. Mereka tahu dari mana? Dari media-media kita. Nah, agar tidak slip into demographic disaster, saya bertanya kepada Pak Khairul Tanjung, please, apakah setuju kalau ke depan media-media lebih mengangkat tema-tema yang lebih positif dan membanggakan? Terima kasih.
Harus.
Next.
Saya Sonia dari Washington DC, tetangganya Pak Dino sendiri. So, ini sangat luar biasa ide Pak Dino, sangat brilian untuk acara diaspora ini. So, mungkin a big applause for Pak Dino. Saya ingin menanyakan ke Pak Nur mungkin ya Pak, bahwa nasionalisme tidak diukur oleh apapun ya Pak ya. So, untuk diaspora ini saya melihat bahwa banyak sekali yang datang ini kaum profesionalisme atau yang sudah established. Bagaimana untuk diaspora selanjutnya itu lebih menyentuh untuk kaum non-profesionalisme atau grassroots Pak? Itu aja yang saya tanyakan. Jadi ini mungkin kaum-kaum pekerja keras yang mungkin kemarin dari Korea ya, saya mendengar bahwa mereka mengirim membangun masjid atau apa yang dengan billion-billionnya itu juga perlu diperhitungkan karena mereka juga punya kontribusi yang luar biasa untuk bangsa kita itu Pak. Jadi itu saja Pak pertanyaan saya.
Okay. Next is Claire Wolfowitz. Claire Wolfowitz adalah dulu pernah di Indonesia sebagai ibu duta besar. Dan beliau bahasa Jawanya bagus, dan beliau kita hitung sebagai diaspora Indonesia karena diaspora Indonesia definisinya adalah walaupun tidak berdarah Indonesia tapi berjiwa Indonesia. So she is one of us.
Actually, yeah, Pak Dino, actually I have been part of the Indonesian diaspora for 50 years. 50 tahun. Jadi sebenarnya saya nenek diaspora. I have a question for really all the panelists. So I guess that means for Pat Dino. What do you think of the idea of a task force, a kind of standing committee that would focus on philanthropy for supporting, mentoring, helping to grow so many of the wonderful projects that are really all over Indonesia, the small projects, not from the World Bank and not from USAID, yes, yes. And also, with the other hand, the same group, or maybe another group, could support so many of the organizations here in the U.S. that promote Indonesia studies and Indonesia culture. All over, we have wonderful, wonderful people doing those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Pak, the first question was to Pak Hairul.
Ya.
And Ibu Mary wants to add to that later. Go ahead.
Ya, terima kasih. Saya setuju dengan pendapat Mas dari Surabaya tadi, bahwa memang agak aneh kalau orang Indonesia itu menjelek-jelekan bangsanya sendiri. Ya. Kan kita ini kan sebuah keluarga. Dalam sebuah keluarga di mana-mana itu kan ada aturan hidup berkeluarga. Ya. Kan kita tidak mungkin menjelek-jelekan saudara kita sendiri. Tapi itulah sekarang yang namanya demokrasi, ya, proses dari sebuah demokrasi yang relatif belum matang. Kita kan baru demokrasi itu bermulai dari tahun 98 sampai 2012, jadi kira-kira baru 13-14 tahun the proses. Jadi inilah sebuah prosesnya. Nah, bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu sekalian, ada satu kecenderungan, ya, di dalam news atau berita di Indonesia yang menyatakan bahwa bad news is a good news, good news is a bad news. Jadi sesuatu yang baik pasti tidak laku, sesuatu yang buruk pasti laku. Fenomena seperti ini saya bisa katakan bahwa ini adalah fenomena yang tidak benar. Good news is a good news, bad news is a bad news, gitu. Ya, cuman karena dalam demokrasi yang belum matang seperti ini, seringkali dicampur adukan fenomena seperti ini. Di Indonesia, Bapak Ibu sekalian, culture kita, kalau saya dapat katakan, ada 95% orang Indonesia itu memilih bersikap diam. Yang kita bilang silent majority. Tapi hanya ada kurang lebih 5% orang Indonesia yang sangat berisik.
Gaduh, gaduh.
Ya, kita bilang noisy minority. Sayangnya, yang berisik inilah yang selalu mendapat tempat di media. Sementara yang majority tapi silent itu seringkali tidak mendapat tempat di media. Karena filosofi yang tadi. Nah, namun percaya dengan saya, makin kita mengarah kepada kematangan sebuah proses demokrasi, ya, maka the silent majority akan mengambil peran yang lebih besar. Itu adalah prosesnya. Nanti rakyat yang akan memilih bahwa yang memberitakan yang buruk-buruk tidak sesuai faktanya, itu akan mulai ditinggalkan oleh masyarakat, sementara masyarakat akan memilih yang betul-betul faktual. Jadi inilah sebuah proses, nggak usah khawatir ya, bahwa belajar dari negara-negara lain yang lebih matang dalam demokrasinya, prosesnya memang begini, dan proses ini akan mencapai masanya pada waktunya. Saya rasa itu saja. Terima kasih.
Pak Mary.
Yes, I wanted to respond slightly. Before I respond, I wanted to have a comeback at you. You criticized me wearing jeans. I just want to remind you that Steve Jobs always wore jeans when he was presenting.
It's not criticizing, it's teasing, actually.
Teasing, I know, I know. And the second thing I would say, do you notice that I'm the only woman on the panel?
Yeah.
I forgot to make that comeback at the beginning, but I just wanted to also say for all of you out there, in Indonesia, women issues are also very important, and how to have women in leadership position, how to have empowerment for women. So any of you out there in the diaspora world who would like to contribute to that, in the case of Indonesia, welcome. We have a network, we have communities which I'm part of, so I'll be welcome any of that. To the question asked by our friend from Surabaya, I think what we are fighting is not just negative news about Indonesia. So you're talking about, I think your question was more about Indonesians in Indonesia receiving too much negative news. I'm also very concerned as the tourism minister about the not just negative news, but ignorance about Indonesia out there. And it's to the point where I remember when Obama was going to come to Indonesia for his first visit, Metro reporter was in Washington, D.C., interviewing somebody, a man on the street. Said, oh, your president's going to Indonesia. Do you know where that is? Oh, I don't know where that is. That's, I think, somewhere in the Middle East. This is in Washington, D.C., with a president who has some Indonesian roots, you know. So the ignorance out there is quite incredible. So I think we have democracy, you see, so bad news is good news. We cannot fight that in the old way where you have state propaganda and you go out there and try to have positive news to counter it. You can't do it in that way anymore. So what we've tried to do in the tourism minister, I've given you all of you should have, I think, zillions of information about what Indonesia is, the beauty of Indonesia, etc., etc. And what we're going to try to do in our ministry is to use very much the social network out there, the social media, I should say. We're going to create a movement, Good News from Indonesia movement. But it's not the government that does it. It has to come from the society, that they will come and they are the ones who will tell the stories. And so I hope that this can also be initiated, and it's certainly the young people that should contribute, because as you said, it's a process. It's the young people who will, there will be, if you read actually the social media, it's quite balanced. You know, there's a lot of criticism, but there's also a lot of positive feedback and say, oh, this is stupid debate or whatever, you know. So I think that needs to be brought into the mainstream a bit more. And we are also hoping to do programs where you invite people who are to come to Indonesia, you know, so I hope you will support this. And it's very much a different world today. You cannot just use mainstream. You've got to do all levels. Mainstream, yes. Social media, yes. Any way you can get to the message. So any of you out there, diaspora world, who have this knowledge, who have this capacity, please come and talk to me, because I would like to get our positive messages across as much as possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I give to Pak Nuh, please, anyone who wants to tweet about whatever anyone is saying today, please, as long as you hash CID 2012, yeah, CID 2012. So tweet whatever you need. I know Pak Anies has been tweeting about this, so thank you very much. Pak Nuh, sorry.
Terima kasih. Dua sekaligus, Mas yang dari Surabaya sama Mbak Sonia. Jadi untuk urusan bangsa, itu tidak ada sesuatu yang kecil. Semuanya besar. Oleh karena itu kontribusi sekecil apapun itu akan memiliki makna yang luar biasa. Tidak perlu ada kekhawatiran bahwa ini saya kurang dianggap dan seterusnya. Tidak. Sedikit sekecil apapun punya makna yang besar. Jadi kalau kita melihat kekurangan yang ada di bangsa kita, di negara kita, itu cari positifnya. Itu pasti ada. Itulah tanda kecintaan kita itu. Tetapi kalau positifnya justru dibalik menjadi negatif, itu sudah tanda-tanda dia tidak mencintai bangsa itu. Saya kira itu.
Terima kasih. Okay.
Sudah jawab.
The last question from Claire. Anyone want to pick that up?
I just sure. I think President Kennedy says what you can do for your country, not for what your country can do for you. So I think we want to encourage our Indonesians to do the same thing. democracy, in my opinion, is messy, very messy. I look at what's going on even here. Sometimes I wonder, is democracy worth it or not? Because there's also a negative side. So we have to be careful, okay, to have a balance of democracy as well as to have principles. So certain principles cannot be argued upon. I don't know, maybe this should be put, I mean, Indonesians have to agree. I think like what kind of democracy they want to have, certain things that they have say must have to have, regardless what people say, because what physics say that if we want the country to prosper in the next 50 to 100 years, or actually not. I say 100 years in 2045. I say why 2045? No, why not 75 years after 1945? So what is that? 75 years to 2045 is 2020. 2020 is 8 years from now. How do we get, 8 years? Okay, you mentioned about 8 years, 12 years, right? So how do you get there? So okay, there's certain things that we have to invest. The country has to invest, education, in infrastructures. These are not democracy. If you want to make the road bigger, you cannot have everybody to agree as okay, how to make the road bigger. So the government has to make the decisions. We're going to make road bigger, compensate for the people that got impacted, but for the benefits of the whole country.
Good. Good. Maybe one personal point for me. You asked a very good question, Yang Pak GNFI. I'm sure you agree with this. I've never met a successful people young cynical, right? If you're cynical, you have negative energy, you're a negative person, you're never going to be successful, yes, right? And I mean, a personal reflection, I don't know if you know this, I was a dishwasher at the Indonesian embassy in 1979. Tukang cuci piring, benar-benar. And then my school wasn't doing very well, you know, because I found out because I was just too cynical. It's always somebody else's mistake. Somebody else is always to blame. I was always too negative about everything. And then some point in my life, I changed my attitude. And now from that tukang cuci piring di KBRI, I'm now the ambassador at that same embassy, right? But the strength of the diaspora, is that diaspora generally are more positive, more positive energy, yeah. And this is where I think you can be an inspiration to our people back home, because there's just too much culture of cynicism now back home. So I think jangan mengikuti itu tuh. You know, we have to be panutan dan teladan bagi mereka. You have the last word on this. Yeah, go ahead. On a question from Claire.
I just wanted to respond to Claire's two excellent suggestions. I think the first one was how to have a task force which would look at how philanthropy beyond World Bank and USAID can contribute to Indonesia. Yes, fully agree. There's a lot of American multinationals who have various programs in Indonesia. You've got Prudential doing women empowerment training. You've got Nestle doing dairy farm and supplier initiatives. I think what we should be doing with this task force is to identify what are the priority areas we want to address, whether it's scholarships, whether it's entrepreneurship training program or whatever, and then get the multinationals not to just focus on the area where the community where they are, but to focus a bit more on thematic issues. And I think that would be a great way forward, including working with the NGOs. There are a lot of NGOs. There can be matchmaking between NGOs. I think your second suggestion was the other way around, how we can have more education as well as information coming back to countries like the US on Indonesia. And here's, I think, where the diaspora can have a huge role, and how to facilitate the diaspora having the information, having even materials, training to disseminate Indonesian updates, serving Indonesian food. That would be one of the sessions later today. And Indonesian culture, you know, teaching gamelan at schools, which is already happening here. And I would say the last thing is the role of universities and educational institutions. I think we have seen a huge decline in area studies or even Indonesian language teaching in many of the not just the US, in many of the educational institutions abroad. How can we push that along? And actually here's where Indonesian corporations or non-Indonesian corporations can actually contribute, have an Indonesian language chair or an Indonesian studies chair somewhere in the major universities.
Okay, good. Thank you. In Indonesian culture, like in your family, the woman always has the last word. So we will
Yay.
close this event. Let's give a big hand to all the speakers.